On the campaign trail this weekend, former President Donald Trump made clear that if elected again, he'd pursue more extreme immigration policies, including mass deportations of millions of people.
On day one, I will terminate every open border policy of the Biden administration, and we will begin the largest domestic deportation operation in American history. We have no choice.
To break down the potential impact of Trump's agenda, Laura Barone-Lopez joins us now. So, Laura, what has the former president laid out in terms of his immigration plan if he were to win this year?
So, Amna, that mass deportation plan that Trump has talked about, including this weekend, we know some details of how it would be carried out from Stephen Miller, the architect of Trump's first-term immigration policies, who remains a close ally and advisor to the president. Stephen Miller talked about how they would carry out that type of deportation plan to right-wing personality Charlie Kirk last fall.
Then in terms of personnel, you go to the red state governors and you say, give us your National Guard. We will deputize them as immigration enforcement officers. The Alabama National Guard is going to arrest illegal aliens in Alabama, and the Virginia National Guard in Virginia. And if you're going to go into an unfriendly state like Maryland, well, then it would just be Virginia doing the arrest in Maryland, right? Very close, very nearby.
So there, Stephen Miller is talking about how they would federalize the National Guard to carry out the mass deportation plan. Through comments from Stephen Miller, through comments from the former president himself, reports as well as aligned policy groups, we have a picture of the type of immigration policies that the former president would implement if he were to win a second term. And so the list that we have is not an exhaustive list, but it includes building large-scale camps near the southern border, a renewed Muslim travel ban, the end of birthright citizenship for U.S.-born children of undocumented immigrants, and creating a federalized army of red state National Guards, like Stephen Miller referenced.
Is that legally possible, even federalizing red state National Guard?
So technically, yes, it is. I spoke to Joseph Nunn. He is from the Brennan Center for Justice, and he is a legal expert on U.S. military activities domestically. And he said that this is legally possible for the president to do.
Donald Trump's proposal to send the National Guard from red states into blue states in order to enforce this deportation program could only be accomplished through invoking the Insurrection Act. The Insurrection Act makes the president the sole judge of whether a given situation warrants invoking the act. In other words, an insurrection is whatever the president says is an insurrection. That's why it's so important for Congress to reform the Insurrection Act, to put in place safeguards against abuse, because as things stand, there are quite literally no guardrails.
So as Joseph Nunn said there, former President Trump has pretty wide authority to institute the Insurrection Act in order to federalize National Guards and be able to send them into other states to round up migrants. And the last time, Amna, that the Insurrection Act was invoked was 1992. It's rarely used. And before that, the only time it was ever invoked over the objection of states and state leaders was in the 1960s.
Laura, what would something like that mean for the military?
Joseph Nunn of the Brennan Center told me that to even do something like that, you would have to have wide mobilization, large-scale mobilization of military, of the National Guard, and it would require these members of the military who have other duties, mind you, and the National Guard is key in helping with duties abroad, that they would then be taken away from that in order to carry this out. I also spoke to a former commissioner of Customs and Border Protection who said that National Guard are not trained in the way that border agents, in the way that ICE agents are trained to be able to tell what people's status are, whether someone can be detained. And they are trained, ICE and Border Patrol agents, in the civil and criminal laws that enable them to carry out immigration law. And that's not something that National Guard is prepared for.
Laura, Mr. Trump also made some rather eye-popping statements about America's commitment to NATO allies. What did he say, and what has the response been like?
Amna, his statements were pretty in form with the former president. We've heard him in the past say that he doesn't always want to be aligned with NATO and the commitment that America has made to NATO, but he went further this weekend.
One of the presidents of a big country stood up and said, well, sir, if we don't pay and we're attacked by Russia, will you protect us? I said, you didn't pay? You're delinquent? He said, yes, let's say that happened. No, I would not protect you. In fact, I would encourage them to do whatever the hell they want. You got to pay. You got to pay your bills.
Going further there, Amna, by outright encouraging an adversary like Russia to invade NATO allies and that he would encourage them to do so. The White House almost immediately responded, calling it unhinged comments, saying that it threatened not just national security, but also global stability. And I spoke to a former ambassador to NATO, Ivo Daalder, who said that his phone was almost immediately blinking red after those comments, hearing from counterparts in Europe and saying that now allies in Europe are essentially considering the unthinkable, which is that the U.S. may no longer be willing to play a leadership role in NATO. And this all comes, Amna, as Vice President Kamala Harris is about to head to the Munich Security Conference to address allies.
Laura Barón Lopez with some insight into what another Trump presidency could look like. Laura, thank you.
Thank you.